everyone can hear. Again, for anyone that joined and our different connections, thank you for joining our WAHN Mythbusters call. We're excited about the panel today. We're going to just give everyone about 2 minutes to kind of settle in and keep connecting. Hello, everyone that's joined in the last couple minutes. Thanks for joining WAHN Mythbusting, the call today from noon to 1. We're going to hold off till about 12:02 to really get started, but I want to let everyone have some time to connect and settle in. We had over 200 people sign up for this call, so we're really excited. It doesn't mean all 200 will join because, as we all know, things come up, but that's a very good turnout. We're starting to ask our panelists if they'll go on tour with Taylor and us because of the turnout. So we're excited about this call. Hope everyone is having a great day. All right, so it's about 12:02. I'm going to quickly turn this over to Kathleen Day, who's our moderator today for the panelists. And before that, I'm just going to make a couple announcements and then introduce Jen Nyquist with Tidwell Group. Tidwell Group provides CPE for anyone that qualifies on this call, so she'll give a brief explanation about that she's way better at than me. I'm just going to make a couple quick announcements. We have a network call, which is our National Equity Together Takes Work, June 15th. That's going to be an extension of this call on parental leave and work-life balance with our consultant, Sarah Driver. July 18th is our next policy call with Emily Kotick. We'll be talking about the new law that just passed, so she'll have a lot of good information and great panelists on that. In August, to be determined on the date, but we have confirmed some very amazing, powerful female leaders in the affordable housing industry that will be speaking on running companies or owning women-owned companies. So we're really excited about that. September, we're going to do a speed networking. So if you or your company would like a spot on that, we are trying to focus on some hidden gems. Like we have Renai, who they coordinate with the state for a credit for tankless water heaters. So that's what kicked this off. But anything like that where there could be some found money to help put these deals together. I know Millie has started in the chat. Please feel free to jump in there, say who you are, who you're with, where you sit. We would love to hear that. And then at the end of September, we're probably doing a sustainable housing seminar. So stay tuned. Feel free to check out our website and follow us, everybody, on LinkedIn. Follow your local chapter on LinkedIn. We're up to about 27 chapters in process. We have a call set up in June, or will be set up in June, with over 200 people that are chapterless right now that we're working to form their chapters, and they will start new chapter classes in August. So it's growing like crazy. We're excited. We are also currently working on co-hosting a conference in 2024 with an existing conference, and then we will host our national conference May 2025. So follow along, and here you go. Jen, I'll turn it over to you first to talk about CPE, and thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, good afternoon, or I guess if you're not in the Eastern time zone, it might be good morning still. My name is Jen Zarnes. I'm with the Tidwell Group out of Columbus, Ohio office. As Ashley said, anyone who would like to participate in answering just 4 simple polling questions, I can get you a certificate of attendance to give back to your workplace. Or if you are actually a CPA who needs to file. So it can work for more than just CPAs. So I encourage you just to go right on to, I put one in the post real quick, Tidwell, which is TIDWELL.cnf.io. And you can answer and follow along with the polling questions. Otherwise, I will pop in and read out the answers if you're not able to hop on a smart device and answer those right now.
I think that's my cue to start. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're so excited about this event, which I take it has record levels of registration, which means that, like you probably have some mixed feelings about this concept of having it all. So we're going to have a rich discussion here in the hour that we have. My name is Kathleen Day, the Senior Project Manager for Preservation of Affordable Housing, which is a nonprofit affordable housing developer based in Boston, but I am here representing the Chicago office. So yes, 11. Good morning. We are in Central Time Zone here. So I'm going to start by having a round robin introduction of our 5 speakers today. I'm going to ask you all inside of a minute if you could introduce yourself, let us know where you work, where you're geographically based. I'm also going to need your mother's maiden name and your first pet. Just kidding. But if you could share in that short time a fun fact about yourself to give a sense of the flavor of the story that you're bringing today, because all 5 speakers have kind of a different story. And we know that our attendees today are really diverse. A lot of you, not all, are women. A lot of you, not all, work in the affordable housing industry. So I'll call on everybody because we're in a Zoom universe here. Glenn, why don't you kick it off, please?
Okay, thank you, Kathleen, and good morning or good afternoon, as the case may be. My name is Glenn Hops. I am the CFO of R4 Capital. We are a syndicator of tax credits, and I think I'm employee number 6. I started here in 2012, and we're just about wrapping up our Q1 reporting, which makes me extremely happy. I'm based in New York City. We also have offices in Newport Beach, Austin, Texas, and Boston. And I guess my fun fact, love it or hate it, is that I'm a Mets fan and I suffer daily with the Mets. So, I also have about 30 years in affordable housing. I've worked at other very large syndicators. I've also worked at developers of affordable housing. And I'm here because of my friendship with Ashley and our long business relationship. And I admire and respect Ashley tremendously. And I have a team of beautiful and talented accountants, primarily female accountants, and they are the heart and soul of my team, and I couldn't be prouder of the job they do for us every single day.
Thanks so much, Glenn. Bonus points for sticking to a minute. I wasn't counting, but I think it's about right. Jen, you're next on my screen, so take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Nyquist. I am currently the president of the Atlanta chapter. We've been in existence for 15 years. I'm also a senior asset manager at Columbia Residential. We're headquartered here in Atlanta. We own, develop, and manage affordable housing. And we are in Texas, Louisiana, Florida, and Georgia, almost at 77 properties. So that's what I do during the day. Very excited to be here. I'm also a co-founder of a company called Well House, which we can talk more about later. And my fun fact, I would say, is I played field hockey in high school. We won 3 state championships, originally from Maryland, and I played in college as well. So that's my fun fact. And I do not play any longer because my joints hurt. So I'll watch from a distance, but I'm happy to be here. And I do want to say, as all the panelists as well, thank you so much to WAHN National for your support in creating this safe space to talk about these different topics. I think it's really important that we have this available as we're, moving forward in our industry and progressing.
Thanks, Jen. And I actually also put in the chat that you are president of the Atlanta chapter of WAHN. Just making sure people know that. Jessica.
Good morning, everybody. Jessica Mullins. I'm based here in Houston, Texas. I'm one of the founding members of Impact Residential Development. We are a brand new national development firm funded from Starwood Capital Group. My particular role is that I cover basically the eastern portion of the country. So I cover about 18 states for Impact. And the reason why I'm here is that I've had a winding journey through affordable housing and in this industry. Starting off as a banker, I've been a strategic consultant. I've been a nonprofit and a for-profit developer, and I did a lot of the work in my early career as a single parent, and got married, and now I'm the proud mom of 6 with our blended family. And I have a lot of stories to share and a lot of tips and tricks to kind of help people see things through. So love to share that a little bit later on in our chat. Fun fact about me is that my daughter is autistic, my youngest daughter. And for a very long time, she's 4 now, she is nonverbal. but nonverbal only with the spoken word, but she sang. She would sing all sorts of songs, and that's how she communicated with us. So in my house, I have a stage. I also have microphones. And so whenever we feel like we're getting at an impasse, we'll go and sing. And it's fully mirrored and it's completely fabulous. And I highly recommend it if you need a stress reliever. It's fantastic.
Jessica, that's one of the coolest things I've heard in a really long time. Wow. Deidre.
Hello, everyone from Indiana. My name's Deidre Roush, and I'm the Executive Director and founder of the Cabin Counseling and Resource Center. We're a professional counseling center with 24 therapists, a life coach, a dietitian, a psychiatrist, and also wellness programming. And although I haven't worked in the affordable housing sector, I have worked as a nurse practitioner and marriage and family therapist with individuals in need of assistance. And I definitely understand the toll of working full-time with children in the nonprofit sector. I tried to overdo it first when I went back to get my doctoral degree with a 5- and 7-year-old, and then in 2009, transitioned the cabin into an independent 501c3 with college kids and a high schooler. Now, fast forward, I think, Glenn, you would argue, I think I'm the oldest on the panel with three kids, now 3 in-loves, and 7 grandkids. My fun fact, I'm from Indiana, and it's time to have everyone be an Indianapolis 500 IndyCar fan. I'm not a fan, I'm a zealot. I have a problem. I should find a therapist because I work out with the IndyCar drivers. I love doing ride-arounds in the 2-seater whenever possible. And you'll find me in turn 4 on Sunday.
Thanks, Deidre. Mary Margaret, bring us home.
All right. Well, good morning. I'm actually in Denver today, but my home is in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm president of Fort Worth Housing Solutions. So we are the housing authority for the city of Fort Worth. We manage all the HUD subsidies as well as own 49 properties, about 9,000 units around the city. So it's a pretty big job, but I am an attorney by trade. So I started out as general counsel for the housing authority. And now that I'm in a position to change policies that affect women and families, I just really like to use this platform to make sure that we're doing good. So I, right out of law school, got married, had 1 child, had 2 miscarriages, another child, and then both parents got cancer. And so in a very short amount of time, I think, really understood that work-life balance was important and using what I can, where I can now to affect change in our little community.
Thank you. So in the time that we have left, I'm going to throw out some questions. We're not going to necessarily do a round robin where all 5 of you have to respond and all that. But I'm going to put a few of you on the spot too. I'm going to start with Jessica. Don't worry, I don't think this is a hard one, but I'm curious to know, just besides just the force of your personality, what in your work environment, your workplace leadership, or examples of mentors made you feel comfortable to bring your whole self to work, and how do you pass that on?
Certainly. And, I think that individual sponsors and mentors have been instrumental in me being able to build my technical expertise, being able to really use my voice in a room and them kind of lending their power to allow me to be heard. That's incredibly important in building those relationships. But I do think that it goes both ways. And I learned very early on that hiding my voice and shrinking down and trying to be something that I was not, or be super masculine. I'm an incredibly girly girl. If you can't tell from the 1980s poofy shirt that I have on right now, that being myself was my best asset. Showing up as Jessica, the girly girl who likes to crack jokes, and being incredibly smart in that way was my most powerful thing. And being able to show that to my mentors, to my sponsors, to my managers, and to my team is the way to go. I certainly think that showing up as yourself gives others the permission to do so as well. And so as far as a leadership trait, me being authentically myself and not being apologetic about it has opened the doors for others, junior staff members that look to me for guidance.
Anyone else? What else has contributed to your kind of understanding that you can not shrink yourself, as Jessica put it, and bring your whole self to work?
I'll go. I mean, certainly whenever you do therapy, if you're not your whole self, you're going to be exhausted by the second client. I do remember during my doctoral program, therapist I was seeing asked me, okay, so what are your responsibilities? And I listed kids, job, school, husband. And she rudely said, well, you need to include yourself, which I thought was ridiculous, even though I was in a marriage and family therapy program. And as a perfectionist, she's like, so how are you going to dole that out? And I said, well, 100%. And she then again rudely said, well, you're not 500%, you're only 100. So you have to choose. Because I always loved to believe you could have it all, and you can't if you think you're going to give 100% in every area, which I think all of us in underserved population, nonprofit world will stop at nothing to bring our mission to fruition. And unless you take care of yourself and encourage all those around you in the organization to do so, your mission won't be going on very long.
I have a job description that essentially requires me to reach 6 major reporting deadlines each year. So basically 6 months of the year, it's nose to the grindstone. But the other 6 months, I do try to do my best to make up for those 6 rough months. So it is truly a balance. It's easy to feel guilty when you're neglectful about some things at home, but making sure that you're cognizant of that balance and how many people need you is super important. I think it's important for us all to assess at times that what we're making an investment, our time is what we have to invest. So we have our time and we have our money. And if we look at our time the way we look at our money, we have to think about long-term investments, short-term investments, and where the best return on our investment is. And it's always, especially with a mother, it's always with her family. That's where the return on the investment pays off for your entire life. And those returns, much like the stock market, do vary from year to year, even from quarter to quarter, and we do have to constantly assess that. And that's an important part of, you know, the time you put in at your job is about how you feel about your company and your company's success. You should be as cognizant of your personal life and your personal success as well.
Leave it to the CFO to put things in terms of ROI. Jen, I know you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I think this question is really important and just conversation here, you know, and before I answer, I'll just give a little bit of my story. So for context, January of last year, I had a health event, a very scary health event. I had a pain in my chest. I was working out. You know, I was that person who went to Orange Theory and did all the things. And the next day I still had that pain. I drove myself to the doctor, and the nurse shut the door after she put the EKG, you know, product on me, and I was having a heart attack. So they, you know, the ambulance came and they rushed me to the hospital. And, you know, through that moment, I just thought, wow, I'm so young to be having this experience. I'm not the typical person that you would think is having a heart attack. You know, I'm healthy, I'm fit, I'm driven, I'm meeting all my milestones and getting that vision board knocked out. But long story short, I went to a lot of doctors and cardiologists, and they told me it was stress. So it was creeping up years and years. It was maybe something, you know, that had happened that day or week before that was the tipping point. but it was the stress that was building up. In hindsight, I went through IVF. And so stress can do magnitudes on, your health and your wellness, things that you might not see. So I say that to say one of the things that's really helped me, I have a great company that I work for and they've been so supportive, but having those healthy boundaries and vocalizing it, and doing that self-discovery, while I had a particular event that happened, I think it's really important that all of us do a little bit of self-discovery. And I'm not saying necessarily you have to see a doctor and talk to a therapist, but we have the ability to change habits every day and create those healthy boundaries that you want at the workplace and vocalize them. Maybe it's taking your lunch break. How many of us are guilty of just sitting at our desk or, just working through the day because you want to knock something out? And it's those little habits that I find helpful to make those changes, and right now I'm so happy that you're here with us, eating your lunch, as Ashley said, grab your lunch and talk about these things, but, kind of have a mirror and say, what are those little things that I'd be able to tweak at the workplace? Go for a walk and have those colleagues that want to go for a walk or sit with you in the lunchroom, and you're doing them a service as well. So Kathleen, I think for me, it's really creating those healthy boundaries and readjusting them when needed. We all have these habits day to day, but it just takes a little bit of reassessment to make that lifelong change for yourself. So, but
there's some chatter in the chat about other people who have had similar experiences. So this cautionary tale is you're not alone.
Yeah. And you just said it, Kathleen, and I think that's one of the biggest parts. And I have this one moment when I walked into the cardiologist, the exercise room, and I walked in and I was the youngest individual in there. Everybody was 70, 80 years old. And they just looked at me and they said, "What are you doing, taking a tour?" And after they realized my story, they said that, Kathleen, they said, "You're not alone. You're part of our family now." And I think for me, like everyone else here, that's so important. Everyone is in their own moment. We might have similarities here. We might have some same roles and hats that we're wearing, but it's taking that moment to be vulnerable, to say, "Hey, Jessica, that's a great idea about, the mirror. I'm going to go do that," or tweak it so it works for me. I think as we progress in our industry, which is so tough to work in, right? Very mission driven, but we have to worry about ourselves and be a little bit selfish so we can continue to do the good that we want to. So anyways, that's what I have. Thank you.
And I'll jump on your selfish. I always tell clients, selfish is not a 4-letter word. It actually has 7 letters.
Mary Margaret, you're off mute. I want to give you a chance to jump in if you've got something.
Well, one reason I'm off mute is I'm on an iPad, so my finger has to go up and down to take it on and off. So if I'm on, don't assume. But I will say, one thing that really kind of came to me is, Deidre said you can't have it all. And I think you can't have it all at the same time. And so recognizing there's seasons in your life, right? So there's going to be seasons when your family needs you more than maybe work or vice versa. And just recognizing that and being okay with it in the moment. I'm a type A and I want to do everything perfectly all the time, and learning to be okay with good over perfect was something that had to, hit home. And I've had some scary health things as well. And that puts in perspective. And I always think about who's going to show up and who's going to care, at your funeral. They may be there the first day, right, if you pass away, but they're not the people that are going to really miss you. So I just try to invest my time with the people that are the ones that matter. And then you said something about shrinking yourself. And that's been hard for me too. I've for years just kind of said, "Oh, I was just in the right place at the right time," or "I was just lucky," right? And I just have to own sometimes that I worked really hard. I tried, I worked, I put in that effort, I read, and I got the position, or I was asked to, take on things because I am capable and I proved myself. And so not diminishing yourself and really kind of owning the hard work that it took to get you where you are.
I love that, Mary Margaret. And I'll just kind of add on to what you're saying about work-life balance. Like, everyone has their own way of looking at that. And one of my personals is just a wave. You're riding the wave, and there's a different time, to your point, where it's the end of the school week, or it's the end of the school year right now. How many of us are running a swim team, running to pick up the children and do end of the year parties and all of that? But then you also have work. And so sometimes you're on, and it's going to just change. And it's just one of those things, as you said, if you need help, delegate. That is something that I've learned so recently, is to ask for help. If you have a group of other friends, colleagues, mothers that want to do pickup, let them pick up, and then you guys change. So there's just so many options. And I think that we're trying to do it all. We want to be there for every single person, every single moment for work, and we can't clone ourselves. So ask for the help. That's okay. That is okay to ask for help. We weren't meant to do it all. We really weren't. And if we want to continue to succeed in our careers and life, be kind to yourself, give yourself grace. And we can have it all. We really can. I'm confident of it. We just have to, find our tribe, find those people that are going to be on your team to help do what they do to make it work.
Yes, Jen, I love the grace. I always say it. I give grace just abundantly with my team, because you never know when you're going to need it back. And so when you work for people and with people that understand that, it's just really special.
Jessica, did you want to jump in?
No, I just wanted to say amen, sisters. I struggle with the concept of work-life balance, as if you have to have spinning plates or have these scales and things go up and go down. I love to characterize it as life is your life, and you've got different components of your life, and they do ebb and flow, and really kind of allocating your time and your energy and your life source to things that you value is the way to kind of help keep you feeling good about the progress that you're making in your world. So I'm just co-signing.
I wanted to kind of touch on a couple of threads that have come out here in terms of some of the structural things that specifically this group, Women's Affordable Housing Network, is dealing with. And there's at least two things that you all have talked about, which is, number one, the world of affordable housing is mission driven. A lot of people, probably all of us in some way, are in this work because we want to do good and we want to help. So that's the kind of culture that lends itself to maybe overstretching in service to a mission. And then the second thing is, of course, like a women specific group, the whole phrase of having it all is kind of like alludes to this. I'm a little bit out of my depth because I'm not an expert in feminism history, but it's kind of like the second wave feminism bargain, where you encourage to sacrifice yourself because there's kind of something to prove. And Deidre, I'm only saying this because you alluded to your age yourself, but I'm curious, for those of you who have been around for a while, watching this just have a career of a few decades, how this has changed, because it seems to me that that trope is less valid. And I wanted to also, I'm going to kick it back to Mary Margaret for a second, and Glenn, the two of you, because we talked about this a little bit before the call, but to stay in the theme of structural things here. So the question for the both of you is, what are the concrete steps that you as leaders take to support your staff in this effort? Because the individual journey is a super important part of it. And I found that really resonant when you all were talking about that. But concretely, what do people need, and what are you getting them so that they can live their lives?
I mean, I can start. Actually, before COVID, really when I started at this agency, I was one of the only executive staff that had children, small children. And so it was almost kind of taboo to say, like, I need to go do, a parent teacher meeting, or I need to leave early or be late for a doctor's appointment for my kid. And so I immediately, when I sat in the seat, was like, that goes away. Everybody needs to manage their life according to, what they need to do that day and make sure the work gets done. I don't ask questions. I don't micromanage. And, we started having things like you know, come in 2 hours late the first day of school to go drop your kid off. That was like a company-wide, everybody gets 2 hours this week. You know, if you don't have kids, go for a walk, get coffee. But just to kind of bring back the idea that you can be a whole person at work and you have this life outside. And I want you to be a good parent or a good caregiver, as well as being a good employee. So before COVID, we actually switched to a 4-day work week. We have a 34-hour work week. We're closed on Fridays. We work 8 to 5. And during COVID, we obviously, you know, implemented a lot of telework and flexibility that we now keep. And so we have completely 100% telework jobs. We have hybrid, and we just offer a lot of flexibility to our employees so they can take care of business both at the office and at home. We were an agency that paid 100% of healthcare for the employee and almost nothing for family or spouse. And so we've changed that. So we actually are covering 75% of the family now, which that was just another way that I think we sent a message that your family wasn't as important to us previously. So we're just trying to kind of get some balance. Glenn, what can I learn from you that I need to implement?
Thank you, Mary Margaret. First, I just want to say, Jen, you really had a pearl there. Ask for help. You know, we sometimes as leaders are so busy trying to manage the end product that we don't understand sometimes that people are overwhelmed. And, you know, ask for help, please ask for help, and you'll get it. And this, I call this the America's Funniest Home Video effect. People will stand by and watch with their phones as a toddler falls over and bangs their head on a table or something, right? I mean, it's just, it's a different look in society, but ask for help. Isn't that what affordable housing is? It's help, right? And resident services and educating the single women who live at so many housing properties across the country and getting them into a better situation. Help is the key of the business and is the key of retaining and growing your employees, right? Listen to them. You know, I think as a leader, you have to, and I can echo exactly what Mary Margaret said. I did used to say I was very lucky for the job that I have and the career that I have, but it's true. I've worked super hard for this, and you have to prove to your team that you're willing to work just as hard as you expect them to work. And you know, you have to mentor people. You have to have lunch and learns. You have to share your experience and your knowledge to give them a hand up. Everybody's experience is different. Everybody's education is different. Everybody's expectations are different. To retain great quality people, like the great quality people that I have, it's autonomy, it's flexibility, it's understanding. You have to understand a mother is the most important person in a child's life. The time that mother invests in her children will pay off dividends for her entire life. And there's not a man in the world that I've ever met that has said, I don't want you to spend time with your children. You need to do your job. If you do meet them, and they may be out there, find somebody who sees you for the diamond that you are, because they are out there, and I can guarantee they are. But autonomy, flexibility, help, teamwork, camaraderie, we're all in this together, we're all on one team. All these things pay off dividends. And I can tell you, my senior people have been with me well over 20 years. And we're family, we're friends. We've been to each other's weddings, we've been to family events, and it means the world to me. And they're a super important part of my life, and I cherish them.
And Glenn, you know, you said it was okay if I asked you about this explicitly, but obviously you're the lone man on this panel. And besides being an industry leader, there are other reasons why this is a priority for you. You mentioned having a workforce that's mostly women, but in your personal experience, I think it's fair to say that you have a unique view on what it takes to raise a family. Do you want to give people a little bit of context there?
Well, it's very unfortunate for my family, but my wife passed away when she was 45. And at the time, my daughter was 13 and my son was 18. So just speaking for myself, I understand that a father is a poor substitute for a mother. And that's a message that I think everybody deserves to hear. We admire, respect, and appreciate the bonding that women provide to every family. You know, the planning, the events, the family days, you know, even if it's, you know, just preparing dinner for the family and getting everybody together. It's incredible, you know, and it needs to be appreciated more by the workforce, you know, and people who are in charge need to say, you know, being a mother is that's the gold hat, you know, doing what you do at work. That's a great hat. And we're building a team, we're building a company together. In the time that I've been at this company, I was the only person in the accounting department at one time. Now we have 10 people, 7 of which I believe are women, including my daughter, who's finishing up her master's in Deidre's area of study, and my son, who's an underwriter in our tax-exempt bond team. So I must have done something right, but I do have to say that a man is a father is a poor substitute for a mother. And I've always really understood and appreciated.
Again, there's some chatter in the chat about, you know, I think everybody, especially those of us who are mothers, appreciate the kind words, but you know, I could do a stand-up special with my material from complaining about my kids, but I take your broad point, Glenn.
If I could add in here, Kathleen, I think just one thing, you know, thank you so much, Glenn and Mary Margaret, for your comments, because it's spot on. And Glenn, I think that's fabulous. Both of you have these wonderful things happening at your companies, and I hope it spreads and it's a ripple effect here among our group and the leaders. But one thing, you know, we haven't discussed here is that some of us are sandwiched between being, you know, a parent in the household, and then we have our own parents that we're having to care for, our aging parents. I think that was in a discussion that someone brought up earlier, taking them to the doctor's office, you know, helping them get into retirement homes, helping them, you know, with their daily lives. And I think that's important here to what Glenn and Mary Margaret are saying, is that it's not always parenthood. You know, sometimes we have to wear that hat as being that child, you know, and the adult child, right? And helping them get through their own life. So I do want to be respectful of, like, you know, the other roles that people are playing here that are just challenging, right? There's no playbook for any of this. But again, when it comes to giving yourself grace and, you know, delegating, finding those teams and the people that you can confide in, kind of going back to Deidre, it's maybe some of us, you know, check out therapy. I know I've done it. You know, I thought it was taboo to even talk about that before, but wow, it is so amazing to talk to somebody who has no interest, like they're not blood related, they're not family or friends, and you can just have a conversation with them, you know? So I just wanted to put that out there, that, you know, there's definitely a lot of different relationships we have and roles that we're playing here that, you know, do help with what the leadership that Glenn and Mary Margaret are talking about.
So on that note, I'd like to kick it to Deidre, who comes to us from outside of this bubble of affordable housing, but with a ton of experience as your own business owner and also as a therapist. I'm curious, I'm sure our audience is too, about a couple of things, like how do you square owning your own business with the need to take care of yourself? And also, I'm curious to hear, to the degree that you and your staff talk to folks who are under intense pressure at work, to what degree are people finding it possible to ask for that help? Because that's a position of great vulnerability, which is why I hope we can kind of steer the conversation back to some of these structural things that need to happen so that the onus isn't always on an employee. I've had, you know, tearful conversations with our chief of staff about things that sometimes you just got to cry. But so yeah, Deidre, take it away.
All right. Again, I want to be sure I remember both of your prompts. So working in a mental health practice, thankfully, I don't have any hypocrites. We know we need to take care of ourselves. That doesn't mean we do it well. I think, you know, in our practice, we do hold each other accountable. And again, preach the whole, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else. Certainly, you know, I was thrilled that I didn't have to do a full-time job and do homeschooling with kids during COVID. I think those moms and dads were highly stressed. They often were sending a lot of their children in for therapy and not themselves. And, you know, with COVID, and I think this is reflective of our clients, you know, your folks looking for affordable housing as well as business owners. You know, anytime you're in a situation that's unpredictable, uncontrollable with no end in sight, anxiety goes off the rails. And I think it's pretty easy to remember that March 2020 applies there, and running a nonprofit also applies. You know, it's unpredictable, it's uncontrollable, there's no end in sight to what the list holds today. And I think with, you know, so many of us that own businesses or start businesses, you know, we are warriors. We may have perfectionistic issues. And with those clients, you know, I'll often ask, what's perfect enough? Because if you ask me what's good enough, I tell you that's not a question I'm going to entertain, because good enough isn't okay. And what's perfect enough often will allow your perfectionistic part not to jump up, scream, and dig its heels in harder. And you know, I think women, I've been one for almost 62 years, we're terrible at asking for help, and usually the queens of saying we're fine, which fine is a 4-letter F word, feelings I never express. And so I think for folks to ask for help, even if you don't think you need it, you probably do. And to get outside. I mean, a lot of our therapists do therapy outside because nature has a great restorative property. So I don't know if that helped, Kathleen, but those are just some thoughts.
We've got about 15 minutes left, and I did want to make sure that folks got the chance to ask some questions. And we got a full room here with about 100 people. The chat has been on fire. I haven't necessarily monitored the questions, but Ashley, Jen, did you guys see any ones that stick out to you that we might throw to the panelists?
There's a whole lot of praise for people on the panel, a whole lot of preach and amens, basically going y'all's way. So thank you for sharing your story. I'm just scanning it.
While you do that, I can throw out another couple of questions, or really it's a prompt, because when we've chatted before, Mary Margaret, you said something about the way that you staff up and pay your folks that I found was very, very resonant. So you know what I'm talking about. Can you talk about that, please?
Sure. You know, we need like 40,000 units of affordable housing in Fort Worth. And so if I think about that, that's super overwhelming. But we know we can't build our way out of it. And one of the things that we have to do as employers is to pay our people a livable wage and a housing wage. And so every year I look at the National Low Income Housing Report that says, what does it cost to live in my jurisdiction? And I think today to afford an efficiency apartment is over $18 an hour. And so we don't start anyone in the company at less than that wage, because I don't want to add to the problem that we're trying to solve. So that's something is making sure that you're paying people a respectable amount of money so they can come in and do their job and not have to have a second or a third job to provide for their family.
Hell yes, Mary Margaret. Exactly what I was driving at. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Kathleen, you've got some questions in the chat now.
Yeah.
People got loud. And also, I just wanted to circle back around. There's a lot of comments about perfectionism. So I think all of you that spoke to that was amazing. You hit a nerve with a lot of people striving for perfection.
I'm going to take this one question here that's getting a lot of traction is how do you deal, so in terms of on this note of needing to ask for help, but how do you deal with gaslighting in terms of like you're too emotional, or I would add to that, you have too many needs, you're too needy, or let's say, for instance, previous generations of mothers didn't have any parental leave, so what are you complaining about? Just an example. Anybody wants to jump in?
I think for myself, this is me personally, Jen. It's my life. I can't deal with anybody before me, after me. I'm really owning that. Don't compare me. You know, like this is just who Jen is and what my needs are, what my personal needs are. So I think that's for me is just, you know, owning that and respecting someone's comments such as that. But it's something that I really try to push away that, you know, and then it's a mirror back to them. Well, why are you asking me that? You know, why are you even going there? That's a little reflection. We're past that, you know, I don't know. That's just my thought on that.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that, Jen. I kind of feel like when someone says something as inflammatory as that to me, I say, well, that's an interesting thing to say out loud. And to just pause and look at horror.
Right.
Right. But I also think that expressing yourself with facts to say, you know, this work product, it takes 10 hours to produce. I have 6 hours. And, you know, I will need additional resources in order to make this deadline. You know, kind of maybe reframing things in a way that is more, I guess, logical or based on quantitative measures kind of helps drive that conversation. But also just saying, you know, I've got to be able to preserve my own self and function, and just being really honest and steadfast in that belief and just have that conversation. It may be uncomfortable. It may be a hard thing to say in the face of someone who's projecting this confidence and wondering why you can't do things. Well, they can just be uncomfortable too. And so you just hold steadfast in your belief that you need this resource, you need this help. And let them have their belief. It's okay.
I agree with Jessica 100%. I would just like to add a couple of basic things. No great goal is ever accomplished without emotion, right? We know who you are. We know you're part of the team. We accept everything that you bring to the table, including some people are more emotional than others. Some people are less emotional. We understand. I keep going back to Jen, you know, if you need help, please ask. Please ask. We're on the same team. Teamwork is the cornerstone of leadership, right? You can't accomplish any goal without the team believing in the goal as much as you do. I would just like to very quickly pass on 2 quotes that kind of overrule the overriding concepts of my life. One was in Betty White's autobiography, and she said regarding perfectionism, the key to a long life is to keep lowering your expectations. And I think that's a really great saying. And another one comes from a famous TV character who once said, some days you're the baby, some days you're the diaper. And that's what life really is, right? So every time you're in that foxhole and you're fighting for that deadline, there are days when you're going to be the baby. And so those are 2 quotes that kind of rule my subconscious mind. And you know, we know who you are. We accept you. We want you on our team. You wouldn't be on our team, and we're on a team, and we're going to get it done.
I love those 2 quotes. I'm going to pick up a question here from Lindsay Evans, which I think is meant directed to Mary Margaret, sorry, but can be kind of broadened. With tight budgets and limited resources, how does reduction in the reduction to a four-day work week equate to salaries? I would add to that more broadly. I think the more broad question is like, if you want to do things structurally that will benefit your workforce, or conversely, if you're trying to advocate for changes, you know, to your HR policies or whatever, you know, how does that square in terms of how does leadership respond to that in terms of the resources that it takes, in terms of is it, to go back to Glenn's comment about the ROI? So I'll let Mary Margaret start, since it was first about the work week.
Sure. So I am a work hard, play hard type of girl, right? Like I'm going to use my PTO and go on vacation, but I'm going to get everything done before I go. And so I wanted to really instill that across the board of, let's take the time that we're in the office and do all the work. Let's not get coffee. And it's not that you can't chit chat, but let's be more efficient and productive. And then we also need to embrace technology. When I got to the housing authority, like most quasi-governmental entities, it was a little bit behind the times as far as using technology. So we went paperless, so scanning everything. So it's, you're not going and chasing files or having to wait on paper. That was one thing. And then also, we made things accessible online for our residents that we serve and our clients and customers. And so we weren't asking them to take off work to come in and do recertifications. They could email documents, DocuSign documents, and just those efficiencies by themselves cut out a ton of time. And really, the reason I got to the 4-day work week is when I got there, they did summer hours. And so between Memorial Day and Labor Day on Fridays, they would work half a day. And when I started working the half days, I was like, well, everybody comes in and grabs a cup of coffee. They turn on the computer and like say hello. They maybe send a couple emails and they look down, they're like, oh, lunchtime, gotta go. And I was like, if we're really getting all the work done in these 4 days during the summer, why can't we do that the rest of the year? Let's not, I think there's also a period of time that people just aren't, effective anymore. So like doing a 10-day work day for me, I was like, you're paying people to hang around for 2 hours and they're not really working. Because I think at some point your brain's tired and you need a break. And so, and we're also just kind of risk takers, it's a calculated risk. And if it didn't work, we could have gone back, but we haven't seen any less productivity out of the staff. We're still helping our clients and achieving all of our goals. And I would venture to say that we've taken on more. We're doing a lot of, we have probably 5 things under construction, 5 things in the pipeline for development, plus a choice neighborhood grant that takes up a ton of time. So as an agency, we're doing new and creative things with a 34-hour work week and making it work. Same amount of staff. We haven't bumped the staff. We've been right at 100 ever since I got to the agency.
That's great, Mary Margaret. That's really exciting to hear about. Anybody want to share other comments along the lines of kind of how to make it work when you decide that it's a priority to make sure that your workforce is supported and they don't have to just kind of go on the gas of their own initiative, personality, personal resources, et cetera?
I really like one of the polling questions. It says, what steps do you proactively do to address any signs of burnout and ensure you have the necessary rejuvenation? So I guess just burnout, I've watched a couple webinars in the recent weeks. I actually was diagnosed with adrenal fatigue. I've been too stressed for so many months that my body stopped working right. So I guess just understanding it's not just women that are burning out. It's not just mothers. There are people at all aspects of life that are just tired of working. And I think that there are plenty of people in society that don't understand that. Maybe they don't have the social pressures and technology all of their life that they've had to deal with it. But I guess just if anyone would like share a couple of the things that they've noticed that they're getting burnout and how you've turned it around.
I'll jump in on that one, Jen. So I didn't really have a choice. It kind of caught me off guard, right? So I had to make, I had a 3-month SELA, if you will, a little intermission. I call it like my break, right? Where I did a lot of self-discovery. I know a lot of people don't have that opportunity to take 3 months off, but it was something that I had no choice, Jen, I had to figure out what makes me calm, right? What is it that I was doing before that I can't reintroduce back when I go into the workforce? Something that I personally realized was that it's how I control my reaction. I cannot, as much as I want to be the magician and control everything that happens around me, I can't. There's so many external things that are going to happen regardless if I have my input or not. So I need to be okay with the chaos around me. And that's the number one thing for me is what keeps me calm, and whether that's getting outside and getting, some fresh air, getting some steps. So I really advise that anybody here figure out what that is for you. And I'm not saying you have to do it every day, but tap into that. Is it being creative? Is it writing in a journal? Is it whatever it may be? It's you. What gives you that joy? What gives you joy? What makes you laugh? And try and put that back into, your life. That will do just phenomenal things to your health and your wellness to get you back and rejuvenated, right? And if not, at least you tried something, right? And you just keep tweaking it. I think for myself, Jen, is now that I've, have a year and a half under my belt from that, if you will, I'm evolving and I'm owning that. Like if you see me out there, I'm not the same person I was a year and a half ago, 20 years ago, but we all, I think, get on this cycle of daily habits. And now that I'm owning and being and knowing I'm evolving every day, every moment, I'm okay with that. I'm so proud of who I am. And I think each of us should be proud of the people that we have become today, and that we can keep learning new things, new habits, new wellness, and adjusting our lifestyle, because that's what it's meant to be. It's not meant to be, the same thing every day, day in, day out. So for me, it's getting outside and getting my steps in before I start my workday, to be honest. It's like, I cannot look at the computer. Yes, they'll come through my phone, but that is how I personally clear my head. So that's a good question, Jen.
For me, it's really a few things. We will finish our reporting trifecta this week. And one of the first things I'll do in June is get together for a lunch with my team, listen to feedback, and find out. And it's not only listening to it, it's using it to make them happier. The second thing is I'll try to educate people in the ways that I do things, and maybe they're doing them different, and maybe they can streamline their approach. And that can mean that they work a few less hours every day or every week. And maybe there's an evolution there, and maybe those few extra hours are just what it takes. But I am a big advocate for, work hard, play hard. I agree with Mary Margaret 100%. We work super hard. We're going to be adding quite a few people to my team, but we've kind of realized that we're spread very thin, and it's not fair. But feedback from those you rely upon in your team it's critical. And it's critical to use that feedback and just not take it in and do nothing. And the other thing is just educate, share your experience, share your knowledge. I've been in this business for 30 years. When I started, there was nobody to educate. We learned, the hard way by people yelling at us. But there's value in making your team stronger, and that everybody can have a better quality of life on your team.
Glenn's out here recruiting. Jessica, you're unmuted. Do you want to have the last word before we break and start to really lose people?
Sure. I love this discussion because I think that burnout is prevalent in our industry. We are working extraordinarily hard. But I want to point out that burnout doesn't always come from your never-ending to-do list and your task list. Sometimes it comes from a feeling of not being seen, or the work that you were doing, you feel as if it's not being valued in some way. And so coming up with ways to find out, to Jen's point, what is it that brings you joy? Perhaps it's not your to-do list. Perhaps it's something that really just makes you laugh. Perhaps it's, even if you don't know what that is, just to try. Because there was a point in my life when someone would ask me, what do you do for fun? And I'm like, I don't know. I work for fun. Like, that's what I do. And trying to just kind of get out of your box to find those places where that does bring that spark of life enjoyment, because it's about the journey, not about the destination. So I'll leave it at that.
Great note to end on. Ashley, you want to go ahead and close this out?
Yeah, no, that was amazing. Thank you all so much. I'm keeping it quick. We keep it right to 1 hour. I wish I had 20 more to talk to y'all. But join us June 15th if you can. We're going to extend this conversation with our network initiative under Millie. And we would love to see you there to keep on. Also, we'll check the chat afterwards and get back to everyone with answers. We'll call all these people one more time and try and get answers for you and send them back out so you have those. Thanks so much for joining us and having lunch, and go find your joy. I like that advice.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the panel.
Of course. Thanks, Glenn.